It doesn't matter how many times you swear you won't fall for it again. That this time, for real, you won't. That this time you can smell it's coming. That you've lived enough, played enough, that you've already seen too many trailers with... to fall for another one. No matter how many times it happens, there's always a part of you that wants to believe that things, well, maybe this time, and you, driven by your hopes and innocence, end up falling for it once again. In Spain, we have a popular saying, 2 boobs pull more than 2 cards. And in the video game industry, for the average gamer, the boobs are the graphics. Sometimes the boobs are literally boobs, but most of the time they're pretty graphics. And there, among all that shine and particle effects, slipped in MindsEye. Another shiny promise, packaged as if it were the new messiah of open world games, with Leslie Benzies at the helm like Moses descending from the mountain with the commandments of the new sandbox. From the outside, it even looked like one of those redemption stories we love so much in this industry to fuel the false illusion of meritocracy. Leslie Benzies, the architect of GTA 3, Vice City, San Andreas, GTA 4, GTA 5, basically the guy who turned organized crime into pop culture. He finally escapes that burdensome corporate environment and in 2016 leaves Rockstar with a $150 million lawsuit in his pocket. Pocket change for a company that could buy a small country, but even so, they decided not to give it to him. And after a few years in the shadows, he reappears and announces everywhere. Because of course, if your resume is I was a part of the entertainment of an entire generation, the logical next step is to build a metaverse. Obviously. That or sell NFTs of monkeys with hats. Everywhere. A place where everything is possible. Drive, shoot, build, explore, socialize, but above all, be yourself. Which is a fancy way of saying you're going to make an avatar with abs and anime hair. Because Everywhere wasn't just a game, it was a platform to make games. Your own experiences, your own stories, your own traumas. To put it simply, Everywhere was Roblox with ray tracing. Ambitious for sure, because one of the charms of Roblox is that it can run on a Nokia phone with just Snake on it, right? While Everywhere looked like it was designed for PCs that can also launch nuclear warheads. And inside Everywhere, to show off the platform's potential, there would be MindsEye, a AAA level cinematic action thriller. It is true that many of us ignored it. Personally, the moment I hear the word metaverse, I lose my boner. And apparently the investors felt the same, because at some point they decided that MindsEye would no longer be part of the metaverse, but a standalone game. Boxed and all for 60 bonanzas. And the multiplayer part of MindsEye, that would be Everywhere, meaning they'd sell you the game separately and the earlier metaverse stuff would be reused for multiplayer. Well, I guess that's not so bad. The trailer swung between epic and pretentious, so much that many of us raised an eyebrow. It looked too good to be true, man. Jaw-dropping graphics, detailed open world, driving mechanics, combat stealth, branching narratives, cinematic dialogue, dynamic AI, plus multiplayer to make it infinite. Dude, the only thing missing is the blowjob! But even before the game launched, things already smelled fishy. 1 week before MindsEye's release, 2 top executives from Builder Rocket Boy, the company behind the game, left the project with no warning, no statement, no goodbye letter, no sad yellow background image with a crying emoji on Twitter. Nothing. A silence that reeked of NDAs and a massive screw-up. In any other industry, this would have set off all the alarms. But of course, this is the video game industry, where a studio can be bought for $4 billion on Monday, lay off 800 people on Wednesday, and drop a trailer on Friday. Still, the word started spreading. Something's off, this reeks bad. Even the industry itself began whispering critics. And to top it off, Mark Gerard, one of MindsEye's CEOs, dropped a bomb. The negative reviews of MindsEye are part of a paid, coordinated campaign. Excuse me, what? Fuck, getting paid to talk shit about something? That's the dream, man! And I've been doing it for free. By whom? Who would want to take down MindsEye? According to the CEO, the answer was Rockstar. Yes, Rockstar allegedly paying people to ensure GTA 6, one of the most anticipated media products of the decade, wouldn't be overshadowed by the launch of none other than a rebranded Everywhere, now called MindsEye. Let that sink in. The funny thing is, there weren't any even reviews yet. In fact, they never sent the review keys to the press, which only added to the weirdness, right? And clearly they didn't understand how the internet works. This kind of narrative, classic Streisand in effect. If people weren't paying attention before, now everyone was watching with a microscope. Then came launch day. MindsEye was released, and it was a disaster. Overwhelmingly negative reception. It wasn't just broken. It felt like no one had even playtested the full game before launch. Cyberpunk's 2077's launch was a walk in the park compared to this. Terrible performance, an open world completely soulless and empty, where all you can do is drive. A game with more cutscenes than actual gameplay. MindsEye can be summarized like this. Cutscene, drive to the objective, shoot, drive back, cutscene. You can't even punch. There's no melee combat at all, not even a sad little slap. The cutscenes feel half-baked. Some characters have decent facial animations, others are fully robotic, like watching a Mr. Beast video. The AI is laughable. They charge at you in straight lines. They look like Roombas, for hell's sake. It doesn't look fixable. MindsEye might have a good story, I don't know. I couldn't stomach finishing this crap, but as a game, it's awful. It's not just bugs. The problem runs deep. MindsEye might pass as a metaverse experience, like a Roblox demo, and in that context, it might even be decent. But a $60 game? No way, it's unfixable. And the saddest part is that this wasn't even made by some intern fresh out of an Unreal Engine course. No, this was made by a guy who supposedly knew what he was doing, who was meant to be the GTA killer. What happened? What went wrong? With Cyberpunk, we understood. Investor pressure, delays, crunch, but MindsEye didn't have any official delays, and it launched like it was built in a 24-hour hackathon. Because MindsEye city is beautiful, super detailed and well designed, but you can't interact with anything. No activities, you can't go into buildings, NPCs do nothing, just wander around, but you can tell there was something there, something that could have had potential. Well, I've had the chance to speak with 3 people involved in MindsEye's development, and we're going to talk about what a disaster it's been. Not just the present, but the future of the company too. Information that, as far as I know, hasn't been made public yet. Sometimes a disaster isn't a big explosion. Sometimes it's a pileup of small mistakes that build up like dirty dishes over the years. And one day you open the sink and ask yourself, why the hell does it smell like shit? Well, MindsEye is the one that stinks. The project changed more than a ditto on ketamine. Every quarter it had a new shape, a new structure, a new promise. MindsEye's development wasn't occasionally chaotic. It was structurally chaotic. The only constant was complete disorder. Everything else, the creative vision, the scope, the team structure, even the game engine changed over time like a growing tumor. Originally, the project didn't even use Unreal Engine. They used Amazon Lumberyard, a game engine as popular as gonorrhea. After several years, they decided to switch everything to Unreal. The game was supposed to be everywhere. A metaverse, a platform where users could create their own experiences. And within it, MindsEye, a narrative experience to showcase the system's potential. Like a demo minigame, but with more explosions than the sample RPG Maker projects. Said like that, it even sounds cool. Imagine a Roblox-like universe, but instead of the first sample game being some Lego-looking dudes on steroids, it's a cinematic blockbuster with motorbikes, ray tracing, and acting performances. Your balls would hit the floor, bro. At some point, the metaverse was cancelled, or buried, or just quietly ignored. Nobody knows exactly when because there was never an official statement. They just stopped talking about it. Even today, internally, many people still don't know if Everywhere has been cancelled or not. It exists in that quantum state of neither alive nor dead like Schrodinger's cat. And somehow, during that process, they decided MindsEye would be the main game. The spin-off became the main course. Like deciding the stuffing from the turkey is now the main dish, and the turkey the dessert. And of course, since they spent time working on Arcadia, that is what they call the world editor for the metaverse, someone in a meeting said, we're not throwing this out, right? It's pretty cool. So they jammed it into the game with a sledgehammer and renamed it Build MindsEye. These decisions weren't made based on design logic. They were made from a pile of leftover scraps, the digital equivalent of building a house from broken furniture just because you already had it. And of course, Benzies is an imposing figure, not because he screams or beats interns with old joysticks, but because he is the Leslie Benzies, the damn architect of San Andreas, the massive sandbox games. So whenever he said, I'm not feeling this, everyone just nodded. Even if you've been working on it for 3 months, it all went straight in the bin. On paper, the project was led by team leads and producers. In reality, every major decision went through Benzies, and that's not leadership. That is a bottleneck. People on the team talked about moments when Leslie would have a sudden inspiration and completely shift the direction of a mechanic. If he had one of those thoughts in a silly masturbating session, he meant weeks of work scrapped and redone from scratch. They threw away the equivalent of months of work because of a sudden change of heart from management. One thing everyone I spoke to seems to agree on is Leslie is very talented, but he surrounded himself with people who weren't. Bad investors, bad advisors, bad managers. And we reached a point where MindsEye wasn't a game anymore. It was a Frankenstein monster were made of parts that didn't talk to each other. No one knew whether it was a shooter, an interactive movie, or a Need for Speed without radios. The chaos wasn't just technical, it was also legal and borderline paranoid. Apparently, Rockstar had an eye on the project from the start, looking for anything that might resemble theft so they could do a Nintendo and drop a sneaky lawsuit. They even forced them to change the studio's name. It was originally going to be Royal Circus Games, but Rockstar said it sounded too much like Rockstar Games and made them change it. I mean, at this rate, if they find out Royal Canon exists, they'll probably go after them too. Eventually, the studio was renamed Build a Rocket Boy. Rockstar started putting clauses in their contracts to prevent employees from going to work with Benzies. Because yeah, a lot of people were leaving to join Build a Rocket Boy. Lots of betrayals and defectors. It was like Game of Thrones, but without incest, I think. The atmosphere was so tense that the word GTA was banned in internal chats, and people were not allowed to watch videos or read news about GTA or Rockstar during work, as if it were a curse word that if said 3 times would summon a lawyer with a briefcase. And do you know why there are no radios in MindsEye cars? Not because there wasn't time, it's a piece of cake to add. Not because of budget, it was because they were afraid it would resemble GTA too much. That's how tense things were, like GTA invented car radios or something. In fact, some developers told me one of the game's biggest issues was the obsession with not looking like GTA, which is hard when the guy behind it all is Leslie Benzies, the founding father of Sandbox Games, someone who didn't like the press constantly calling MindsEye the GTA killer. Some features were removed due to a lack of resources, like the ability to steal cars from NPCs, because, you know, if you steal a car and show up to a mission with it, what happens in the cutscene? Will it bug out? Unexpected collisions. So they just cut it entirely. But other features were removed just to avoid resemblance to GTA. Melee punches, for instance, they were in the game and then cut. Obviously, this creates a toxic environment, one of mistrust. People making decisions out of fear, not because they believed it was the best choice. And the saddest part, many developers didn't even know what game they were making. Some thought they were working on Everywhere, others on MindsEye, and most were stuck in a kind of existential limbo. Is this a metaverse, a campaign, a minigame with cars that don't have radios? So, what started as a creative experiment inside a metaverse ended up being a standalone game sold for $60. A company that seemed poised to redefine open worlds ended up building a closed, soulless world with no direction and no car radios. Seriously, the radio thing still drives me crazy. And if Benzies was the ship, now we get to the iceberg. Mark Gerhardt, the other CEO of this apocalypse. Every good story needs a good antagonist. The big bad, the embodiment of what goes wrong when power falls into the wrong hands. Just look at the CEO of Electronic Arts. Dude looks like he was designed by Pixar to be the villain in Big Hero 6. Well, here's Mark Gerhardt, the co-CEO who joined the studio in late 2024 and started making changes like he was playing The Sims. Gerhardt, also nicknamed by some workers as the bald fucking asshole, arrived after Build a Rocket Boy acquired PlayFusion. Part of the reason Gerhardt joined supposedly was to professionalize the studio, to bring order, structure, but what he actually brought was a culture of control, distrust, and surveillance. First thing he did, fire all of HR and replace them with his people. He also earned the hatred of all the devs by removing some perks like extra vacation days, a bonus when you had a baby, etc. But the highlight, the legendary moment, was when he publicly accused the staff of being lazy and incompetent. And the best part, he did it in a meeting he thought was only with PlayFusion people. He kicked things off with something like, well, we have to help these guys because they're useless, they're lazy, not realizing the Build a Rocket Boy employees were listening live. As you can imagine, morale wasn't exactly stellar. It was made clear that you weren't there to be happy, you were there to obey. This is the Sod who came up with the Rockstar conspiracy theory. And that statement hit like an emotional nuclear bomb across the team. Not just because it was ridiculous, which it was, but because it confirmed this man wasn't just a bad leader. He was also completely off the rails. Where are all conspiracy fellows bald? He was 2 interviews away from saying it was all Bill Gates and the 5G chip. Instead of admitting mistakes, they looked for external enemies. Instead of protecting the team, they blamed them. And instead of self-reflection, delusion. This sparked internal outrage, fights, awkward silences, all while the game was falling apart. Reviews were piling up and the leadership kept posting motivational quotes by Paulo Coelho. The greatest strength of the human being is resilience. What the hell are you talking about, you hippie? There was even tension with IO Interactive, their publisher, and its CEO had to step in to downplay the conspiracy claims. But we are not done yet. Let's talk about the digital corpse known as Everywhere. The story of Everywhere isn't just a story of a canceled game. It's worse. The story of a project that made sense, that inspired people, and that was silenced without explanation. Because before MindsEye became the start of this tragedy, Everywhere was the core. I spoke to several people who participated in Everywhere's closed beta, and surprisingly, they said it worked. worked. There was an internal game jam with winners who were still proud of what they built. It wasn't just smoke and mirrors. You could build, publish, and play real content. People were creating MMOs. There were contests, full game modes. They had a collaboration deal with Amazon Prime, so you could watch it on in-game TVs. If you saw an ad for a game in the city, you could click and start playing it. And according to several beta testers, one of the best features was the credits system. On most platforms, if you make a map and someone modifies it, only the person who publishes the final version gets paid. But in Everywhere, everyone involved got a share, automatically distributed by the system. If you made an asset, you got your cut. Someone could remix your experience into something new, and you'd still earn from it. The beta participants were thrilled. It wasn't perfect, but it was more promising than anything we've seen labeled metaverse, since Zuckerberg decided legs were optional. And no, there were no NFTs or blockchain nonsense. That was just internet rumor. People associate the word metaverse with that stuff, which is why they avoided using the term. But then, the builder's beta was shut down. The Discord server paused, and without any notice, no official statement, the Everywhere launcher was replaced with the MindsEye launcher, as if it had never existed. After all this, the technical disaster, internal collapse, silent burial of Everywhere, and public humiliation on Steam, you'd think Build a Rocket Boy's future is the abyss, and maybe not? For now, they're already working on MindsEye 2, and I'm not kidding, MindsEye 2, now, still without radios. This time, it's supposed to be multiplayer, although after all this, no one knows what's going to happen. The plan was to release it next year. You'd think, after everything, the company would shut down. Lights off, leave a goodbye note with another Paulo Coelho quote, and move on. But no, because this is the video game industry. They even have another secret project in development, one based on a very well-known IP for a very big company. I can't say which one, they specifically asked me not to, but it's from a TV series everyone knows. Once again, I don't know what will happen to that deal after MindsEye, but it's their big wild card. So, while other studios die doing everything right, this one might survive with a lucky commercial play. There's a very human bias to think failures are accidents, isolated cases, as if everything we just saw with MindsEye was a one-off, something you explain with, it just didn't work out. But MindsEye didn't fail by accident. It failed because it was poorly led from the top. And no, MindsEye isn't the exception. It happens more often than we think. Most of the time, it just doesn't make the news, unless there's a big figure like Leslie involved. Some people probably saw this disaster and thought, good thing Leslie Benzies left Rockstar. But he didn't do this thing at Rockstar. That was Sam Houser's job. Leslie made games. And that's not just me saying it. It's what Sam Houser himself said in one of the internal emails leaked during the lawsuit over Leslie's departure. When Red Dead Redemption was falling apart and things looked dire, Sam begged Leslie to help. And Leslie saved the project. He was a key figure in the design of every GTA from 3 to 5. And that's not fan talk or rumors. It's in Rockstar's internal emails, confirmed by the company's founders and Leslie's former colleagues. But hey, that's probably a story for another video. MindsEye is a reminder that you can have millions of dollars, talent, history, tech, and ambition, and still end up launching a game with no gameplay, no soul, and no direction. It is proof that this industry can generate hype for years, and when it all falls apart, blame the critics, Rockstar, the algorithm, or a conspiracy, anything but themselves. And that is why it is important to talk about, because this will happen again. It has already happened many times, and we'll keep buying trailers thinking they are experiences, not because we're stupid, but because deep down we'd rather feel excited about something, even if we know it'll probably fall apart.